Next speaker is Andrew Savage from Weathertex. And Andrew, are you there? G'day, Andrew. How are you going?
I'm very well, Chris. How are you?
Excellent, thank you. So you're going to be talking about building sustainability with Weathertex.
Yeah, building sustainably with Weathertex. But before I start, I must say congratulations on your new principal partner.
Yes, it's fantastic, isn't it?
Yeah, I'll say it's fabulous. We're very excited at Weathertex. So we've always had such a strong relationship with the BDAA. So it's great that it's even stronger as of yesterday or today. Anyway, very recently.
Yep.
Yesterday, yeah. It's all a blur at the moment, Chris. But let me start screen sharing. I'm very, very happy to be here today, and thank you for inviting Weathertex to be part of your International Building Designers Day. And it was good to see Dick. I'll be talking to Dick next week on one of our events as well, which I'll talk to you about shortly. But today's all about building sustainably with Weathertex. And if anyone out there has any questions at all that they'd like to raise, somewhere on my myriad of screens here, I've got a chat portal. There it is. I'll just open that up. You can just pop your questions in the chat portal and I'll try and get to them as we go. But today, firstly, I'd just like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the lands and waters in which we live and work across Australia. And we pay our respects to elders past and present. And in particular, we thank the Warramai people, the traditional owners of the land where Weathertex factory is located. Today's presentation is sort of in two parts. The first introductory part, we're going to talk a little bit about the environment. We'll look at sustainability and renewability and what the difference is between the two. And we'll also look at carbon storage, embodied energy, and sort of how timber works in these three big areas around the environment. And then we'll get into the latest from Weathertex, and we'll do the Weathertex pitch after we talk about the environment for a little bit. So timber's renewable and sustainable. A lot of people may not fully get the difference between renewability and sustainability. It's something that I didn't realise until I sort of joined Weathertex. So to explain what renewable resources are, they're natural forces generally. So things like solar, we can get energy from, wind, tidal, they're natural forces. And then we also have organic materials which we can renew. So anything that we can harvest and then regrow is renewable. So crops, livestock, we can harvest or use, and then we can replace by renewing it. But is it always done sustainably? Our farmers are getting better, but it's not always done sustainably, and I'll explain that a little bit more shortly. Timber is a renewable building material. It's organically grown, and it requires time, 15 to 20 years perhaps, for a tree to mature, and space, generally a forest, to renew. Now, like all renewable resources, timber can be used sustainably if the rate of use is less than the rate of renewal. Now, that's a very simplistic approach. There's a lot of other things that need to be taken into account, but getting down to sort of basics, the rate of use must be less than the rate of renewal for any renewable resource to be used sustainably. And so we've got schemes out there that help us to ensure that the timber, for instance, that we're using, the renewable and sustainable resource that we're using, is basically being managed correctly. So we've got schemes like the Program for the Endorsement of Forest Certification, the PEFC program. We've got the FSC, Forest Stewardship Council, Responsible Wood, the Australian Forestry Standard. All of these schemes are designed so that if you're buying timber that is certified as being harvested according to these standards, the rate of use is less than the rate of renewal. So we know that our renewable resource is being used sustainably. It's very important. So timber stores carbon. So take into account that on average, a tree will consume around about 1.5 kilos of carbon dioxide from the air, and they'll use that carbon dioxide to produce a kilo of timber. And it'll return just over a kilo of oxygen to the atmosphere. So it's a pretty good deal when you think about that. And trees are harvested and used to make timber products. And the carbon taken from the atmosphere that gets converted to the body of the tree and becomes the wood that we use to make timber products, it remains stored in that wood for the life of the product, unless it rots or burns. So when we're processing timber, so there'll be some carbon released by the machinery when we're harvesting trees, processing and milling timber. There'll be a small amount of carbon produced, but the carbon that's actually already been harnessed by the timber into that tree will remain stored unless it burns or rots. And research has shown recently that up to 95% of the carbon stored in timber will remain stored even after up to 30 years in landfill. And that's because Australian timbers are particularly dense, heavy timbers. They take longer to rot. Of course, if timber burns, it releases its carbon very quickly, and we've seen that happen too many times. So let's take something into account. If you're, as a building designer, you're thinking, okay, I can do a timber frame or I can do a steel frame for the house that I'm designing, just consider this. A timber house frame for an average 180 square metre dwelling will store around 10 tonnes of carbon dioxide, whereas less than 2 tonnes of carbon dioxide are produced to manufacture the timber required to make the frame. So we've got a carbon negative result of 10 tonnes stored in the frame, minus 2 tonnes is 8 tonnes. So negative 8 tonnes, it's a carbon negative result. When it comes to steel, it's a very carbon positive result. So that to produce steel, and we'll look at that shortly, and I know at the moment you might be forced to use steel frames because timber is becoming a bit difficult to source, but if you can use timber in place of steel or aluminium or ceramic tiles for flooring or what have you, or in place of fibre cement for cladding, if you can use timber, you will be doing the environment a favour. And that's because, unlike timber, the other materials that I mentioned, like steel, concrete, fibre cement and aluminium, are intensely carbon positive. So in other words, there's a lot more carbon released in the manufacture of those materials than is stored in the material itself. And just to give you an idea about that, this chart shows us the carbon dioxide released during the manufacture of different materials, minus the carbon dioxide stored in different products. So sawn softwood timber is hugely carbon negative. For every cubic metre of sawn softwood timber, we're storing 775 kilos more in that timber than is produced in its manufacture. With Weathertex, for every cubic metre of Weathertex made, we're storing 34 kilos more in that cubic metre of Weathertex than is produced in its manufacture. It's not as hugely carbon negative as timber, as sawn softwood timber, but we do say Weathertex has a better than zero carbon footprint. So it means that it's carbon negative. And nothing comes close to Weathertex at this price point in terms of that carbon negative or better than zero carbon footprint when it comes to other cladding materials. Steel, look at this, 7.5 tonnes extra carbon produced compared to what's stored in a cubic metre of steel. Concrete, we've only got 400 kilos, but we're not including the carbon released throughout the life of concrete. Concrete, as it cures, releases carbon dioxide. Every time concrete gets wet, it releases carbon dioxide. And concrete accounts for around about 8% of the world's greenhouse gases. So keep that in mind. Aluminium, 72.3 tonnes more carbon dioxide is produced per cubic metre of aluminium than is stored in that cubic metre of aluminium. It's off the charts. But one thing that's good to know is that and look, I'll come to this because the next slide talks about this in a bit more detail. Building materials require mining, harvesting, transporting, processing, refining, manufacturing and delivery before they can be used in construction. And all of the energy that we use across all of those processes is known as embodied energy. So as a rule of thumb, for every cubic metre of solid material such as concrete or brick that you replace with timber, you're saving about a tonne of carbon dioxide from going into the atmosphere. So think of a tonne of air. It's a pretty big volume, isn't it, a tonne of air? Air contains carbon dioxide. I'm sure that the molecular weight of air and carbon dioxide is similar. So a tonne of carbon dioxide is going to be a pretty huge volume as well. So instead of using, say, concrete slab on ground, can you go with timber bearers and joists on piers? You know, I mean, instead of using in situ poured concrete walls, maybe you can use a stud wall arrangement. Looking at fossil fuels, and this is where I was getting ahead of myself. we're now looking at the megajoules of energy used per kilo to produce these different materials. So for rough sawn timber, we're using 1.5 megajoules of energy to produce a kilo of rough sawn timber. Concrete, we're using 2 megajoules. Now, this is looking at megajoules consumed in the manufacture of the material. It's not talking about any other sort of carbon footprint around concrete. But anyway, suffice to say, 2 megajoules per kilo of concrete, 35 megajoules of energy per kilo of steel, 435 megajoules of energy per kilo of aluminium. The Tomago aluminium smelter is one of the biggest consumers of electricity in Australia. And I was very, very pleased to read across the weekend that the fearless leaders of that Tomago smelter have mandated that by the end of 2030, they are going to get all the electricity that they require to power up their aluminium smelter from renewable sources. Now, they use 10% of all the electricity consumed in New South Wales. So that'll be a huge burden on the environment relieved. And Tomago aluminium is to be commended for doing that. So good on you, boys. But as you can see, aluminium is a very energy hungry resource. Now, we've worked out that if we can use timber in place of other types of materials, we've got a renewable material. It's going to store more carbon than is produced in its manufacture. And it's also can be used in a sustainable way, provided we're using third-party certifiers to ensure that the timber is harvested accordingly. There are other third-party certifiers that Weathertex uses, including, we've talked about PEFC, the Program for the Endorsement of Forest Certification. Weathertex uses as a minimum standard timber that complies with this standard. But we also work with Global Green Tag, and they are a third-party certification body all about environmental sustainability, and their most recent innovation is anti-slavery as well. But we have platinum on our platinum on our natural products, and gold Global Green Tag certification on our prime products. And we were the first manufacturer anywhere in the world to receive this. And we're very proud to have products that we manufacture that are so considerate of the environment. We also have our Environmental Product Declaration, which is a third-party certified life cycle assessment, cradle to the grave. And you can check all this stuff out on our website. Plus, we have our Product Health Declaration. We proudly say that Weathertex has scored 100% in this particular survey. Our products are very safe to use on site. They don't contain any adhesives, formaldehydes, resins, or silicas or silica. So Weathertex is just timber and wax. So it's a very healthy product to use as well. We've recently achieved Codemark certification for our Weathergroove architectural panels and our self-lock weatherboards. Our other 2 weatherboard ranges, that is Classic and Prime Lock, will have Codemark certification by the end of the year. Codemark helps you guys to provide proof of NCC compliance to your PCAs or certifiers. And we have a new CPD at Weathertex all about National Construction Code compliance. So I'd be very happy to present that to you guys, either through your chapter meetings or through the larger firms. We also have brands appraisal for Australia and New Zealand, and Weathertex is an ISO 9001 accredited company in terms of our systems and QA. So why use Weathertex? Well, apart from the fact that we're great guys, we're the major principal partner of the Building Designers Association, and we have terrific products. Weathertex is 100% natural. It's 97% reconstituted natural timber fibre and 3% paraffin wax, nothing else. It's very clean. 100% safe. There's no chemicals, additives, resins, formaldehyde, and no silica, which is really important for site safety. Easy installation, standard carpentry tools. Your builders love it. Codemark certification, which we've already talked about. And termite resistant. Steam pulping removes natural sugars and starches from the timber. Part of our process means that there's nothing in there for termites to attack Weathertex. And I do apologise, Alan Smith. If I did say guys, I was talking as in guys and gals. So my guys, gals, and gender non-specifics, whenever I say guys, that's what I mean. We've been in the business over 80 years, Australian-made products, and we're Australian-owned, and we export to 16 countries. We have a 25-year warranty against rotting, cracking or splitting for our prime products and a 10-year warranty for our natural range. Better than zero carbon footprint. We've got that global green tag third-party evidence to support that. And we've been voted #1 most trusted brand in the building industry by 13,000 subscribers to architectureanddesign.com.au. They did this survey twice and Weathertex won it both times. That's 2 out of 2. And in the top 10, we had other companies like Dulux, BHP, Colorbond, James Hardie, CSR, and little old Weathertex won it twice. This is another really important thing. There's no lead time issues for Weathertex. We have everything available pretty much ex stock, and we're also not imposing any price increases until 2022. So we're really trying to help the industry out as much as we can. So Passive House, we just heard Dick Clark talk about Passive House, and Weathertex is perfect for Passive House because of its lightweight performance on the exterior of Passive House with your thermal bulk inside the project. And now we'll have a look just quickly at our different profiles. Our natural range, which got Global Green Tag Platinum status, has a bunch of different weathergroove panels, as well as our self-lock weather boards and our classic Shingles Plus range as well. This shows our natural product without any stain on it. And you can see it goes from this walnut brown color to a silver gray color within a few years of direct UV exposure. And it still has that warranty against rotting, cracking or splitting, even without a stain. And if at any stage you want to stain the product, you can stain natural. Everything else we do beyond natural is primed. In our classic weatherboards, you can see here by this section elevation here, it's an overlapping, more traditional profile. And this is where the company started back in the 60s making classic weatherboards. And then we've also got Prime Lock, which has a slightly larger range. And you can see here, it's the overlapping profile, but we have a concealed fixing detail, which makes this product very easy to install. Then we have our self-lock weatherboards. So as you can see here from the section profile, this is an integrated tongue and groove arrangement. It's a more modern profile for the horizontal aesthetic. And then we go into our weathergroove panels. Weathergroove is probably our most popular product, and it has a range of smooth and textured surfaces. It is also available in the natural unprimed product, and there's 9 different profiles here. I actually have the Weathergroove 150 Smooth in my own home. It looks terrific. We also have our Rubik's aluminium, Rubik's architectural profile panel as well. And it comes in the 12 by 12 as well as a 12 by 9. And here it's been combined with one of the Weathergroove profiles and also color contrast to provide, I think, a really nice aesthetic result. Accessories, don't forget the Weathertex accessories. They simplify installation. Often you don't need to use any wet sealants or silicons or polyurethanes if you're using our prime products with the accessory range. Here's an interesting project we recently did with Stockland Developments, almost 90 townhouses out at Schofields in Western Sydney, and it uses mainly the Weathergroove 150, 300 and 1200 profiles. There's a lot of Weathertex publications available for download from our website. We've got our newly updated product catalogue and installation manual, the latest Sustainable Design Trends magazine, which is a fabulous showcase of more architectural applications for our products. There's a whole bunch of white papers and physical properties documents, as well as test reports and so on available. If there's anything that you can't find, just get in touch with our customer service team and we'll get that information out to you. Love this project. Weathergroove 75 Smooth, used in what I think is a beautiful example of what you can do with Weathertex. This is houses on the North Shore of Sydney, and I think it's in Castle Cove, but it's a really, really beautiful execution. Now, our specification tool's been recently updated, so you can find this on the website. It makes it really easy to specify Weathertex products. And we've also got our Inspirational Designs application on the website as well. This is probably something that you guys can already do using your ArchiCAD or Revit software. But if you have a client who is wanting you to provide 15 different combinations of Weathertex profiles, you can set them up with this tool and they can have a bit of a play around themselves. It's very easy to use, and it'll allow them to upload photos or JPEGs or PDFs and then superimpose Weathertex to scale on the facades of the building. So it's a fun thing to play with. Hampton's Look, very popular at the moment. And this is using our PrimeLock Smooth 200 with the concealed installation detail. Now, a new Revit showroom. I actually just presented this to the Greater Western Sydney Building Designers Association chapter a few minutes before coming on with you guys and gals and gender non-specifics today. And they were very excited to hear about our single digital catalogue containing Revit models for all products and accessories. And so you can go into the Revit showroom and you'll see all the different profiles, and they're already preloaded onto, you know, the stud wall configuration you're looking for. You'll find 3D families, photorealistic textures, everything's in there that you can then basically drag and drop into your Revit drawings. So it'll certainly make it easier to specify and design with Weathertex. And for the ArchiCAD users out there, please keep in mind that we'll have ArchiCAD updated for you to this standard early to mid next year. Weathergroove Smooth. This is a home in Carlingford in Sydney where they've used the Weathergroove Smooth 75 millimeters, and I think it looks fabulous. They're a 1200 by 3660 panel size, the biggest panel on the market. And here we have our small Z flashing accessory, which allows for joining of panels. So other services that Weathertex offer, obviously we can give you technical support for our products and on compliance via phone and Zoom at the moment, and hopefully eventually back in person. We have our free bill of quantities service for projects. We have some building designers now including the bill of quantities for the cladding in their tender documentation, so that all builders are quoting on the same scope of works for the cladding. Free samples available. You can call us or order them from the website. Our formal CPD workshops, there's 4 topics now that we offer, and we offer these generally through the BDAA chapters. The Pathways to National Construction Code Compliance is the latest. It's a bit dry, but it's very interesting, and I'm presenting it to the Australian Association of Certifiers later this month, so hopefully they will receive it in the manner to which it's intended and give us some positive feedback. We've got all of the things I showed you earlier and then some. You can download these as PDFs or you can request them as hard copies. So a lot of information there on the website. And then we've mentioned some of these already. The videos and case studies on the website are fabulous. If you haven't seen the manufacturing video, have a look at that. It's really interesting. And we've talked about the drawings. This is that same project in Carlingford that had the Weathergroove 75 on the outside, and they've used it as an internal feature on the inside too, behind the main bedroom wall. Now, we've already talked about this, but we're so excited. We'll tell you again, Weathertex is now the BDAA's new principal partner. Our very strong relationship with the BDAA will become even stronger, and we will try, COVID notwithstanding, to get in front of all of the BDAA chapters in person at some stage, at least once, sometimes twice a year. And I'm here to provide any sort of support, presentation information, whatever you need for your chapter meetings. So myself and Glenn Cancross, who you know, are available at the end of the phone. So please get in touch. So WebNext Talks is another thing that's come back. Biophilia and the built environment. So what these are is they're sort of like a chat, really. Tomorrow, that's Thursday the 19th, between 12 and 12:30, it's only a half-hour show. I'm going to be talking with Mathilde Martin, and she's an expert on biophilia, which is really sort of combining organics with design and construction. And she's a very, very interesting person and really good to talk to. So that's tomorrow, 12 to 12:30. You can go to the Weathertex website, go to the webinars section, and you'll be able to register for that. And then the following Thursday, we're interviewing Dick Clark, who was just on before me today. and his trusty associate, Andy Marlowe. We're going to be talking about Passive House and asking the question, is this a future for Australian house design? I think that it probably will be eventually. How long it takes, I guess, is going to be the interesting question. And then we've got some more coming. We've got one on the Wednesday, the 1st of September, which is the week after Dick and Andy. And that's all about the circular economy. And that'll be really interesting too. So go to the Weathertex website. And if you haven't already subscribed, you can go to the homepage of weathertex.com.au, scroll all the way down, and then you can put your details in there to get onto our mailing list and hear all about these exciting events. Another exciting promotion we have running at the moment is the WeatherTex Win the Ultimate Christmas Gift promotion. Basically, what you do is specify WeatherTex on your projects. That's the important thing. And then you upload your projects to a special part of our website, which show the WeatherTex specifications. We ask you for a couple of details. And every project that you upload is one chance to go into the draw. I reckon the odds of winning this are pretty good, certainly a lot better than any lottery or lotto or whatever so if we get 200 entries, we'll be very happy with that. And the odds are 200 to 1, they're not too bad. The more projects that you register, the more chance you have to win. So get your specifications in. The only deal or rule is the project mustn't have been built yet. If we already know about it, that's fine. But as long as it isn't built yet, you can get in there and upload your drawings. It's very quick and easy to do. Love this picture, and we're almost at the end of my presentation. This is WeatherTex painted black, and it's Weathergroove 150 rough sawn. And WeatherTex is one of the few natural timber products that you can paint black and still have that 25-year warranty against rotting, cracking, or splitting. Most natural timber products, you can't paint dark colours and still have a warranty, but WeatherTex is so stable that it still is warranted when painted black. So that's the end of our presentation. I'll leave this up just for a moment. This is our website, our customer service, our phone number. But if you need anything at all, please get in touch. We're here to help and very happy to assist with anything that we can on your projects.
Thanks very much, Andrew. Great presentation.
Thank you.
Just quickly, we've only got a couple of minutes before we go on to the next presentation, so I'll try and get some questions to you. Do other products go into WeatherTex other than timber?
No, well, it's wax, paraffin wax. So what it is it's 97% basically reconstituted timber. So what we do is we take split logs and crappy trees that no one else can use. We then chip them, and then we explode them violently, and then we grind them into a dust, and we mix them with water, and we extrude it. Oh, and we also add 3% paraffin wax. So it's basically sawdust, water, and paraffin wax. It's extruded and then pressure cooked at a very high temperature using steam heat and high pressure. And that high pressure cooked steam heat process reactivates a naturally occurring chemical in timber called lignin, and lignin is what holds trees together. So it's 97% timber fiber and it's 3% wax. It has about an 8% moisture content when it's finished, but the two main ingredients are just wood and wax. There's nothing else in it.
Okay, one other one was, what about ArchiCAD models?
Yeah, well, as I mentioned, we will be doing ArchiCAD next year. We've done Revit. We did Revit first, and to be honest with you, WeatherTex, we're a successful company, but the cost of doing this is very expensive. So we did Revit first because Revit has 70% of the market, and we're doing and that was this year that we released that. We're working on ArchiCAD now, and we'll have that launched next year. But we had to sort of stagger it a bit because of the costs involved. But we will have the same sort of 3D families and showrooms and all that stuff set up for you in ArchiCAD. I'd say by the middle of next year, by the middle of 2022, certainly by this time next year.
Perfect. Look, I'm going to have to wrap it up, Andrew, but it's fantastic that WeatherTex are now the principal partner of the BDAA. Also, with the global first manufacturer to receive the Green Tag Platinum certification.
That's right. Thank you. You got that down, Pat.
Thank you very much. That one.
It is.
But yeah, that's great. Thanks very much.
And congratulations on a great day, Chris. I've watched a few of the presentations. It's been incredible.
You mean you've been watching them all, haven't you, Andrew?
Look, I have to work. I have to earn my dollars. Anyway, I better get going.
All
See you
good.
later.
Thanks a lot, Andrew.
Bye-bye.
Have a great night. See ya.
Thank you. Bye-bye.